So, I want you to take a second and just think back to your own school days.
Oh man, yeah, we're going way back.
Right, like way back. But specifically, I want you to think about whether you ever had a teacher who just, you know, got you.
Like someone who actually understood how your specific brain worked.
Exactly. Not just a teacher who knew their subject really well, but someone who could basically crack the code of your brain. Someone who made a really complicated concept just suddenly click into place.
Yeah, those are incredibly rare. But when you find one, they completely change your trajectory.
They really do. And that's exactly what we're going to get into for today's deep dive. We are looking at this absolutely fascinating collection of personal essays and reflections.
Yeah, and the author here is really interesting because he's not a traditional educator, right?
Right, exactly. He's a man in his 60s. He spent his whole career in business working overseas. And now he's reflecting on his life by volunteering as a tutor for junior high school students.
Which is such a wild pivot. Going from international business to sitting across from a stressed out middle schooler.
It's a huge shift. But our mission for this deep dive is to basically unpack his experiences and figure out the anatomy of a born teacher.
Because reading through your notes, it's clear he has this unbelievable, almost instinctual grasp of pedagogy.
Yes. And we're going to look at his actual interactions with these kids to extract the core elements of what makes his teaching so incredible. Spoiler alert, it's really not about dispensing facts.
No, it's way deeper than that. It's about profound empathy.
Right. Empathy, really clever analogies, and basically meeting a student exactly where they are. And I'm so excited to get into these unconventional methods because they are just brilliant.
They really are. And what's cool is that even though he's just acting on instinct, his methods secretly align with some seriously advanced psychological and cognitive theories.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so let's set the scene with this first encounter because it's perfect.
Yeah, laid out.
So the author is tutoring this third year junior high school boy, and this kid shows up to the session looking completely, utterly exhausted, like drained of all life.
Typical teenager, honestly.
Right. But the author asks him, what's wrong? And the boy actually gives a totally honest answer. He confesses that he is totally stressed out over a love story.
Oh, wow. Okay. A 14-year-old love story.
Yeah. He's agonizing over this massive crush, worrying about whether he and this girl are going to be able to get into the exact same high school next year.
Which, to a kid that age, is quite literally the end of the world.
Exactly. But think about what a normal adult or a normal tutor would do in that situation. They'd completely dismiss it.
Oh, 100%. They'd say, forget about girls, focus on your math textbook.
Right. We only have an hour. Open your book.
Yeah.
But our author does the exact opposite. He looks at this kid, realizes he's about 14 or 15, and remembers that is the exact age he was when he had his own profound, life-altering first love.
Ah, yes. The nursing assistant story.
Yeah. 50 years ago, he was dealing with joint inflammation, spending all of his time in the hospital, and he fell deeply in love with this young nursing assistant. And it was agonizing for him.
And he uses that. He
Yeah.
literally uses that to build an empathy bridge. Because he doesn't just say, oh, I know how you feel. That's sympathy, which is very distancing.
No, he literally brings receipts.
Wait, really? Like physical receipts?
Well, his essays. He actually brings out his own written reflections, his notes from 50 years ago about this first love, and he shows them to the boy.
That is, wow. That is incredibly vulnerable.
It really is. He proves to this kid that he isn't lying. He's not patronizing him. He tells the boy, look, even if this romance is painful right now, 50 years from now, it's going to be a brilliant, warm memory.
What happens to the kid?
The boy's exhaustion literally just vanishes. He finds his motivation again, and they actually get to work. But I have to ask you, as the expert here, is indulging a teenager's love life actually a distraction from studying, or is it like the ultimate pedagogical hack?
Oh, it's a hack. An absolute masterclass in a hack.
Yeah.
Because this is textbook emotional validation.
Really? So it's not just wasting time?
Not at all. A born teacher inherently knows that you absolutely cannot teach a brain that is emotionally overwhelmed.
Ah, right. Like a computer with too many tabs open.
Exactly. The boy's limbic system, the emotional center, is firing on all cylinders. There is zero processing power left for abstract math.
So by validating him, he's kind of freeing up the RAM.
Precisely. By validating the boy's feelings and offering that half century of perspective, the author clears the emotional blockage. He allows the student's mind to actually refocus on the academic task.
That makes so much sense because once he proves he can connect with their hearts, it just perfectly sets up how he connects with their minds, which brings us to the math problem.
Oh, the geometric analogy. This one is brilliant.
It is. So the author is reviewing a different student's file before a session, and the file has this amazing contradiction. It literally says the student is both bad at math and good at math.
Which sounds completely impossible. How can you be both?
Right. I'm so confused. But you broke down the specific academic hurdle for us in the notes.
Yeah, so I looked into what they were actually studying.
Mm-hmm.
The student is trying to learn how to expand algebraic expressions,
Okay, like what kind of expression?
like parenthesis a plus b, close parenthesis, times parenthesis c plus d, that sort of thing.
Oh, FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. I remember that nightmare.
Exactly.
Wow.
But the student's foundational understanding is flawed. They are fundamentally confusing addition with multiplication.
Wait, how do you confuse those?
Well, for example, when multiplying parenthesis x plus 9 times parenthesis y plus 9, the student gets the first parts right. They get the xy, the 9x, the 9y.
Okay, that sounds correct so far.
But when they get to the final term, multiplying the 9 by the 9, the student ends up with 18 instead of 81.
Oh. They're doing 9 plus 9 instead of 9 times 9.
Exactly. And it gets worse with variables. They're completely confusing a plus a with a times a.
Oh, man. So they just see the symbols and have no idea what the actual operation means in reality.
Right. To them, it's just a sea of meaningless squiggles.
So here's where the born teacher intervention comes in. Because a regular teacher would just bark at them, right? Memorize the rules of algebra. Times means times.
Yeah, which does absolutely nothing if the student's brain doesn't process abstract symbols well.
Exactly. But our author visualizes it. He completely drops the abstract symbols and draws it out.
Yes. He uses geometry to explain algebra.
Right. He explains that A times A is the actual physical area of a square with sides of length A. He draws the square.
Which immediately makes it real. It's a two-dimensional space.
And then for A plus A, he just draws a line of length A and then attaches another line of length A right to the end of it.
Just a one-dimensional, longer line.
It's so elegant. It reminds me of trying to explain a really complex recipe in French to someone who only speaks Spanish.
That's a great analogy. You can't just yell the French words louder.
Right. Yelling mélanger louder isn't going to help them mix the batter. You have to translate it into a visual language they already understand.
And that's exactly why this proves the author is a natural educator. He diagnosed the real underlying problem.
Which wasn't that the kid was stupid.
Not at all. The student wasn't bad at math as a whole concept. The student was clearly highly spatial and geometric, but struggled heavily with abstract algebraic notation.
So by transforming the symbols into shapes, into areas and lines, he completely bypassed that cognitive blockage.
Exactly. He routed the information through a different part of the brain.
Yeah.
And the student understood it instantly.
It's just amazing how he fixes the math by changing the language, but it made me wonder what happens when the language itself is the actual problem.
Ah, you mean the spelling crisis.
Yes, because this next story is about how he rebuilds a student's completely shattered confidence in English.
This is such a common psychological barrier in language learning. Tell them about the setup.
Okay, so he's got this third-year junior high girl, and she flat out tells the author she is terrible at English. Just a total failure because she cannot spell.
And spelling is so binary. You're either right or you're wrong, and you get that big red X on your paper.
Exactly. The spelling barrier has completely convinced her that she has zero aptitude for the entire language. She's given up.
Which is tragic, because spelling is just the orthography. It's not the actual communication.
Right. So the author has this brilliant pivot. He tells her, look, forget spelling for a minute. Stop writing.
He just takes the pressure right off.
Completely. He says, just say all the English words you know out loud to me right now.
And what does she do?
She just starts rattling them off. Numbers, the days of the week, family members, body parts.
Basic verbs, adjectives. I bet the list was huge.
It was. And as she's doing it, she has this sudden realization that her vocabulary is actually massive. She knows so much English.
He completely shifted her paradigm.
Huh?
He moved her from a deficit mindset, focusing on the spelling she couldn't do, to an asset mindset.
Yes, exactly. But then he has to build the scaffolding to get her back to writing. Right.
Right, because you can't just ignore spelling forever. You have to bridge the gap.
So his next step is so clever. He asks her to write down only the words from her spoken list that she absolutely can spell, the safe words.
He's keeping her in a zone where she feels completely secure.
And then he challenges her to make simple sentences. just connecting a subject and a verb from her own safe list, like I play.
He's giving her the feeling of, I can do this. He's manufacturing a win.
Yes. He lets her feel that success before he even attempts to correct minor grammatical errors, like forgetting the "es" for a third person singular verb.
And how does he handle the complex spelling rules when he finally gets to them? Because English spelling is notoriously awful.
Oh, it's a nightmare. But instead of making her rote memorize things like boy becomes boys, but lady becomes ladies, he teaches her the underlying logic.
Like looking at the vowel versus the consonant before the Y.
Exactly. He gives her the why behind the rule. It respects her intelligence.
That is so crucial.
It really made me ponder, though. Do you think modern educational systems over-index on penalizing minor technical errors, like spelling, at the expense of crushing a student's overall communicative confidence?
Oh, without a doubt. We prioritize what is easy to measure. It's easy to grade a spelling test. It's much harder to grade a student's willingness to take a risk and try communicating a complex thought.
Right, you get punished for trying to use a bigger word if you misspell it.
Exactly. But the author's method perfectly illustrates the concept of scaffolding and what Vygotsky called the zone of proximal development.
Scaffolding, so building the foundation first.
Right. A great teacher builds a foundation of confidence first. By showing the girl she already possessed the raw materials of English, he gave her the emotional momentum she needed to tackle the tedious mechanics of spelling.
It's just so brilliant. It's amazing how he motivates them through these specific subjects. But eventually, every single student asks the ultimate cynical question, right?
Oh, the classic. Why do I even have to learn this useless stuff?
Yes, the universal grievance of every junior high kid. I'm never going to use this as an adult. And he has this brilliant analogy for that, too.
Because the standard adult responses to this are just terrible.
They really are. What do adults usually say? Because it's on the test.
Yeah, or because the curriculum says so. Which just tells the kid their time is worthless.
But the author refuses to use those cop-outs. He actually shares this metaphor from his own childhood, and I am so enthusiastic about this.
Oh, the balloon theory.
Yes. So when he was a little boy, he was super frustrated because he couldn't inflate this stiff toy balloon. He's blowing and blowing and nothing's happening.
We've all been there with those cheap rubber balloons.
Right. So his father takes the balloon, blows it up once with his adult lungs, lets all the air out, and hands it back to him.
And suddenly the kid can do it.
Suddenly he can inflate it easily, and the author takes this and applies it to learning. He tells his students, look, learning seemingly useless facts is like inflating the balloon for the very first time.
It's incredibly hard, and there's a lot of resistance.
Exactly. It's hard, but it actually stretches the material of your brain. And he says, even if you forget the specific facts later, which is like letting the air out of the balloon, your brain's balloon has been permanently stretched.
The capacity is fundamentally changed.
Right. So the next time you need to learn something you actually do care about, like coding or video editing, it's going to be so much easier to inflate your brain.
It's such a compelling story.
But I have to push back a little bit here. Is this just a charming, clever rationalization to keep kids quiet? Or is there genuine neurological truth to this stretching idea?
Oh, there is absolute neurological truth to it. It perfectly aligns with what we know about neuroplasticity.
Really, the balloon thing is scientifically accurate.
Yes, the act of learning builds and reinforces neural pathways. It's a process called myelination.
Myelination, like building insulation.
Exactly. The brain wraps these pathways in myelin, making the signals travel faster. The specific subject matter, the random facts, is almost secondary to the cognitive exercise itself.
So memorizing history days is basically just lifting weights for your brain.
Precisely. You're building executive function and working memory. The author's genius is taking a really dense neuroscientific concept and turning it into a tangible, visual story that a skeptical 14-year-old can easily accept.
That is just incredible. It gives them a real reason to try. But looking at all of this, the empathy, the analogies, the balloon story, where did this man learn to be such an incredible creative teacher?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And to answer that, we have to look back at the two people who actually taught him, his parents.
Yeah, your notes dive into this, and it's a tale of two entirely different parents.
A completely polarized study in teaching styles.
So we start with his father's rigid approach. His father was highly educated, but incredibly strict.
Very authoritarian.
Yeah. When the author was in elementary school, his father would force him to verbally explain vocabulary words like a dictionary. He made him repeatedly rewrite essays.
focusing purely on the final product, not the child's experience.
And the worst part, he even dictated fake adult sounding sentiments for the author to present as his own in class.
Oh, the Sake Caps story.
Yes. The kid is doing a project on his hobby, and the dad makes him write, I don't know why collecting Sake Caps is fun, but it is.
Which is just devastating. It's intellectual erasure.
Yeah.
The father is basically telling the child that his authentic thoughts aren't good enough.
And the result of all this rigidity, the author ended up hating reading and writing for years.
Of course he did. The father's intense focus on the result completely destroyed the joy of the process.
But then you contrast this with his mother's joyful approach. And this is so fascinating. The author admits his mother was terrible at advanced math.
She couldn't understand squaring numbers at all, right?
Exactly. She couldn't grasp it. However, she was the one who successfully taught him basic addition and multiplication.
And she didn't do it with drills and red pens.
No, she did it through fun, competitive games. They used verbal chants. And with writing, she just let him joyfully scribble beautiful letters on scrap paper without ever criticizing his form.
She built confidence before she ever worried about correctness.
It's just this beautiful irony. The parent with the lesser academic knowledge was actually the far superior teacher.
Because she understood engagement over compliance.
Yes, engagement over compliance. It's profound.
And if you synthesize all of this, you see exactly how he became a born teacher. He actively adopted his mother's playful, confidence-building methods, and he consciously rejected his father's rigid, joy-crushing methods.
He lived it. He knew exactly what it felt like on both sides.
He learned firsthand that who is teaching and how they teach matters infinitely more than the raw data they possess.
Which really brings us to the ultimate realization of what education actually is, and why his story resonates so deeply.
It completely reframes our understanding of a teacher's role.
Because a born teacher isn't a walking encyclopedia, right? They aren't just a database of facts to be downloaded. A born teacher is a translator.
That's the perfect word for it, a translator.
They are someone who looks at the human being sitting right in front of them, whether they are totally heartbroken over a middle school crush, or completely paralyzed by a fear of spelling, or confused by abstract algebra, and they find the exact analogy,
The exact drawing, the exact physical shape.
the exact story needed to make the world make sense to that specific person. They translate the curriculum into the language of the student.
Instead of forcing the student to speak the language of the curriculum.
Exactly. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over.
Something to explore on your own.
Right. Think about the balloons that you've inflated in your own life. What difficult, seemingly useless things did you force yourself to learn in the past? Things that secretly stretched your capacity and made you capable of achieving what you do today.
And more importantly, think back. Who was the born teacher in your life who handed you that balloon in the first place and actually sat down to show you how to blow it up?